So you know the cool kids are here now.
There we go.
Prepared for takeoff. We'll call to order the May 15th Sherburne County EDA meeting. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion made.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'd also be looking for approval of the April 17th EDA meeting minutes that were provided in your packets.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next up's a presentation by Nick Teets.
Yeah, so it looks like he's not online yet. There we go. Speak of the devil. And Josie and Kevin are part of his presentation here. So, Nick, if you can hear us, we just got to your name, and we can turn it over to you whenever you are ready for your presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Very cool. Let me click on all the right beeps and boops here, Brian. Appreciate the time.
Sounds good.
You want to give just a brief overview of our relationship?
Absolutely. So this was the funding through the Just Transition Fund to fund the ILT Academy entrepreneurship cohorts, as well as a few in-person events. We're actually in the final cohort with ILT Academy through that grant funding. So that will go through, I think they're in week 3 or 4 now at this point. And so we got about 6 weeks left with that current cohort. And so we've had a number of cohorts, I think 6 total.
Yeah.
I think Nick will present on some of the numbers that we've had through the program, but a really good way to take folks that have kind of a general business idea or want to go into business for entrepreneurship, and through that 10 weeks, they really narrow them down to one specific idea that might hold traction and they can drive forward with. So, does that about sum it up there, Nick?
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure I'm clicking on not entire screen. There we go. Thank you, guys. Sorry, left-handed on Teams here. Can you see that now, Brian?
Yes, we can. I think that's probably as big as it will get too.
Okay. Awesome. Hey guys, thank you so much for the time this morning. My name is Nick Teets. I'm the CEO and founder of ILT. ILT simply stands for I Like That, and we are focused on empowering what we call underestimated entrepreneurs in underserved communities. If you've never sold a business for more than $1 million, you might be underestimated in your abilities to start, launch, and grow a business. And we are focused on teaching and training this very specific skill. And we've been doing it very proudly across the state of Minnesota, North Dakota, and now parts of Wisconsin. The problem that communities face is it's hard to find good ideas and teams to invest in. And there aren't enough qualified candidates to develop and run early stage startups. And in underserved markets and geographies, it's even more difficult to get your startup going, which is why we're focused on startup education. This isn't a talent issue. This is a skill issue. We need to develop more entrepreneurs in our communities. This will help build the economy. It will add jobs. It creates new opportunities. It's not only a business attractor, it's a business retention tool. Now, one of the things that makes us different is that, again, as I kind of mentioned, this is just another vocation. Baker, welder, entrepreneur. This is a skill and you can get better at it. And we have a very specific thesis, which is if communities invest in the people in their community, they will stay in that community to grow their business. So our mission is simple. Find the siloed innovators and entrepreneurs in every region, meet the entrepreneur where they're at, train them, and push them to commercialize their idea and take it to the next level while connecting them to their own community and a culture of other startup entrepreneurs. while at the same time making them more apprised of all available execution and commercialization resources. There's a lot of great resources, but if you are an emerging or early stage startup entrepreneur, especially in a more rural or honestly outside a major metro area, it's hard to find these resources and understand how they all tie together. And so we've really focused on finding the innovators and entrepreneurs. We do it occasionally in person, which you'll see. We run a virtual training program, which Josie, Kevin, and Dave are going to talk a little bit about their experience. Our goal at the end of the day is to build up a new community of entrepreneurs, high tech, low tech, no tech, for profits, nonprofits. Anyone can learn this skill, and our job is to foster, empower, and push these entrepreneurs forward. We've run our cohort 44 times since November 2020. 700 founders have come through the program. They've started 550 companies, and collectively over the last 3 years, they've raised over $23 million to push their idea forward. We're very proud of the work that they're doing, but this is not about teaching and training entrepreneurs. This is about creating healthy and thriving communities full of problem solvers, innovators, and critical thinkers. Silicon Valley is not going to solve the problems in Sherburne County. The people in Sherburne County will do that, but might the skills of an entrepreneur help us get there faster? Our program is designed to help entrepreneurs move from idea, and then we meet the entrepreneur where they're at. Some people already have a business up and running. They might have an idea, or maybe it's a new idea that they want to use to expand their business. And we want to teach them how to do this, spending the least amount of resources possible to get the idea off the ground, validate it. And then for those that are ready to grow, push them towards whatever the next thing is for them. Again, as I mentioned, we do this all virtually. This is a little snapshot. This is not a Zoom, as Kevin and Josie will talk about here in just a minute, but a very interactive and immersive experience designed specifically to connect them to other entrepreneurs and the community at large. We do this through a series of community workshops and our flagship 20-week program. It's broken into 2 10-week segments. This is what our virtual environment looks like. Yes, it is like a video game, and we do all the sticky notes online. We get entrepreneurs connected. We teach them how to give their pitch, and we have something very famous called the 30-second pitch night, where they have to give multiple pitches in one night because their job is to figure out what works from what doesn't and develop their best pitch. We help them get connected to other resources in the community and across the state. If they pursue our advanced cohort, they will get a mentor throughout the second 10 weeks of the program. For those that are building tech startups, we try to connect them to as many tech resources as possible. Prime and Emerging Digital Academy have been great. They teach people how to code. We teach people how to entrepreneur, and we try to put the two together to help them move forward faster. And then we do virtual founder showcases at the end, where each entrepreneur has to give a 5-minute presentation on their business model, and how that might work. And the point here is to bring multiple communities together so that they can get exposed to lots of different people along the way. We have a very, very robust program. It's broken down and all designed to help push the entrepreneur forward. In the first 10 weeks, again, this is all about putting together and clarifying their idea, their business model, who's their target audience, and how are they going to grow that market. In our advanced program, we double down on all of those features, and we want to make sure that they go deep on their business model with a strong go-to-market strategy and prepare them to pitch for investment. When we say investment, we know not every business is venture backable, but there are lots of banks and other resources, grants, community grants that are available to these entrepreneurs, and we want to make them more successful at getting those things. Over the last 3 years, our founders, as I mentioned, it's not just about them raising capital. They're getting into other great programs to push their ideas forward. The Initiative Foundation which does come into Sherburne County, offers $60,000 to $60,000 grants to entrepreneurs to push on their idea. The Finovation Fellowship, $50,000 grants. We've had 12 Beta Minnesota startups, a Google News Fellow, 30 regional pitch comp winners. That doesn't include Josie, who recently won one of the regional pitch comps here in Sherburne County, a Bell Bank winner, 20 Minnesota Cup semifinalists, 2 Minnesota Cup Greater Minnesota Cup winners, which is great. And we've got a number of these entrepreneurs going into some nationally based accelerators. The last one there, Y Combinator, we had an entrepreneur from Duluth get into that program. Really proud of them. They raised $2 million to push their startup forward. So there's lots of cool things that are going on, with the alumni. So what have we done specifically in the city of Becker and Sherburne County? We're really proud because we've been happy with the engagement that we've been getting across the community of entrepreneurs. We started by going in and getting our program up and running some cohorts. You can see, Josie, I know you didn't know I was taking the picture, but here's Josie along with entrepreneurs at our 30-second pitch night, getting connected with economic development leaders across the state of Minnesota and the head of investments and commerce in North Dakota. This is how we grow and create new wealth in our communities. It's by helping them get into other communities to expand and grow their business. You can see on the right, entrepreneurs coming together to workshop their ideas, figure out how to build rapid prototypes, and then getting connected to economic development leaders. Yes, Josie, star of the show today, because there she is with Jacob, of course. Brian, I was looking for a picture of you, but I couldn't find it quite in time. We had our high school workshops. We went into all 3 high schools, Becker, Elk River, and Big Lake. We met a lot of students through the DECA programs. You can see here, they're coming in, we're teaching them how to rapidly frame up an idea and then pitch it to their peers, which I think you guys all know, if you have any teenagers in your life, getting them to smile and do anything can sometimes be a challenge. This was a ton of fun. We had great engagement in all 3 schools. And then, of course, we ran community workshops in the city of Becker, bringing entrepreneurs from all over central Minnesota into Sherburne County to learn, figure out what their idea is, connect with each other and other community leaders, which is great, which culminated in 2 big programs. One, our 0 to 1 accelerator, which was a 3-day accelerator that we ran in Sherburne County, again, with the city of Becker. We had about 33 participants that signed up for the program. That whittled down to 15 that were selected to come through. And then that culminated in a final pitch and presentation where all the participants had to give a 2-minute pitch. They were selected by a panelist of judges from Launch Minnesota, business leaders in St. Cloud and central Minnesota. And Josie was selected as the winner in the pitch competition. So it just shows that you put in the work, lots of great results can happen. And I want to turn this over first to Kevin and then Josie, and then Dave, who wasn't able to make it this morning, has prepared a video to talk about their experience. And Kevin, I'm gonna turn off my screen here, so you can go first, and then Josie will go second.
Oh, Kevin, we can't hear you yet.
I've spent my life in technology, but I still can't remember to turn off mute. Sorry about that. Well, good morning. My name is Kevin Salachi, and I'm the co-founder of Vinci Inc. Vinci offers a smartphone that puts you in control of what you choose to see and what others can see about you. For smartphone users who are dissatisfied with the big tech privacy invasion, harvesting your data, and manipulating your phone, Vinci is an ultra-secure smartphone built from the ground up to shut down the data tracking and prioritize the transparency of the apps you interact with. Unlike Apple or Google, we offer independence and connectedness without sacrificing your information or your autonomy. Within a week of completing the ILT cohort, we received a significant offer from an investor that we met through ILT. Ultimately, we decided it wasn't the right partner for our business, but without Nick's counsel and the resources that he provided, we may have ended up in a bad position. Instead, we're in a position where we're happy to have passed on the opportunity. Seriously, like I don't know. We were pretty starry-eyed with, with this thing. I've spent my life helping other people, but never done it for myself, and we were not expecting an offer like we got. And I think, Nick and the people that he's connected with us with really helped us see that we could pass on this and still be successful. So, currently we're just sort of doubling down on development and protecting our IP. The tariffs and all the volatility in the market kind of threw our projections out of whack, and so we're just sort of refocusing. So as I said, I spent my career helping other founders grow from a small business into something more profitable and more sophisticated. I have solid skills from my tech background as a developer to leading, IT, finance, and operations teams. I've always wanted to build something of my own, but I really didn't think I'd be able to. Just didn't know how to get started. And ILT Academy found me through social media somehow, and they're exactly what I was missing. The curriculum was great, but more than that, the community that Nick connected us with really made the difference. Spent 10 weeks developing an idea, iteratively sharpening these concepts, and working with great people like Josie to refine them even further. As a transplant to the area prior to ILT Academy, I really didn't know many people around here at all. And now, as an ILT alum, I feel connected to a broad community of people in similar positions to myself. And whether or not Vinci ends up disrupting the cell phone industry, I'm well equipped with a framework to kind of quickly test and sharpen any future ideas. And I feel connected with the community of people in the area who I can partner with to launch a successful business if this one doesn't end up taking off. I'd really like to thank the city of Becker for sponsoring me for this. To be honest, before this, I didn't know much about Becker. I moved to Elk River a couple of years ago, and just didn't know much about the area. But just seeing them as a sponsor and seeing what ILT did, I really now view Becker as a business friendly environment. And this and a couple of our other ideas, Becker's kind of the first place that we look now for office space or for headquarters. So I think it's great, and I hope you guys are able to continue providing programs like this. Well, that's it, I think.
Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Josie.
Good morning. My name is Josie Wilkening, and I am the CEO and founder of Rustic Metals, a design-forward metal art company based right here in Becker, Minnesota. We transform spaces into bold brand statements, and we are the tailored suit of business decor. So our business is for new and expanding brick-and-mortar storefronts who are dissatisfied with generic, mass-produced artwork. Our product is luxury metal decor and branded artwork and signage that provides a solution to companies struggling to create a cohesive, high-end look. Unlike home goods, we create statement pieces that are built to last, designed to impress, and crafted to reinforce your brand. So since completing ILT Academy, my business has experienced incredible traction. I've won $1,500 in pitch funding through the 0 to 1 program. I was introduced to Brian Fleming, who is here of Sherburne County at ILT's 30-second pitch night, which led to Rustic Metals joining both the Elk River Chamber of Commerce and the Elk River Biz to Biz group. Just yesterday, I actually presented my ILT Crafted Founder presentation to the Chamber's ambassadors, and they were truly blown away by how clear and compelling it was. ILT gave me the confidence to pitch my business to any room because I know that what I'm saying is meticulous, refined, and meaningful, and exactly what they're looking for. I've connected with entrepreneur powerhouses like Sihan Belavan from Beta, and I've learned that real growth happens not on social media, but through intentional in-person conversations with the right people. Through IoT, I also learned about programs I never knew existed, like the Initiative Foundation, which has since hired me to teach vendor show success to other small business owners across central Minnesota. I now share my knowledge of booth setup, pricing, and crowd engagement to help understand communities thrive in the vendor world. These relationships have helped my business flourish in ways I never expected, and even led to some of my now closest friendships. What stood out most to me about ILT Academy was how personal the support was. This wasn't just business education, it was encouragement, it was coaching, it was clarity. And I didn't have to drive to the cities to get it. I could build something real right here. I walked away not just with a better business, but a stronger sense of identity as a founder. Which brings me to why I deeply appreciate the City of Becker and Sherburne County for investing in founders like me. Because of you, I didn't just get training, we got a launch pad. And as the Sherco transition changes our local economy, programs like ILT give small businesses a real chance to grow, create jobs, and stay rooted right here. So my simple ask is keep supporting initiatives like ILT Academy in this community. Thanks to ILT, we don't need to move to Minneapolis or even leave Becker to feel like part of the new entrepreneur community, which is off the charts in Minnesota, by the way. You can start and grow right here where you are. And I want to add here at the end that our business is moving locations this year, and we are choosing to stay in Sherburne County because you fund programs like ILT Academy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Josie. Appreciate it. Our last testimonial here I wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to share my screen. So Dave Anderson was not able to make the presentation this morning because he is traveling, but he recorded a short video here to talk about his business and what he's doing now that he's moved to Sherburne County and continuing to grow his business, which is really exciting. I'm going to try to share my screen again. Please let me know right away if you cannot hear this. But it should play just fine.
We can't hear it.
You cannot hear it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, let me try this. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dave Anderson from Zimmerman, Minnesota.
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Dave Anderson from Zimmerman, Minnesota. I am the current founder of Love and Moon Trading Cards. We supply graded trading cards to various repack companies. My previous startup, NextGem, was a social network / marketplace / collection management app for trading card collectors, kind of a place to digitally organize and house your collection. So with my current company, I've raised close to $100,000, and with my previous company, NextGem, we raised about $3.6 million in venture funding. This is actually my third company since I'm finding ILT. The second one I put on pause when I had the opportunity to go into this third one. So ILT has been an absolute game changer for me as an entrepreneur. It has helped me to really stick the entrepreneurial mindset in me. I don't think I'll ever go back to a 9 to 5. It's shown me just how amazing it is to be able to test run, take an idea from the idea phase to testing it and finding, hey, this could really be something I could do or I can make money off of. And it's allowed me to connect with others in my community and help them as well. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts is getting to come back and help the others that are going through this program and be a resource for them. ILT provides not just the training and the ideas, the resources, to be a part of the community. They connect you with investors. They connect you with just opportunities that you would never have or never see, and all from your own home. I don't have to travel to the Twin Cities. I don't have to travel anywhere really. I can do this from my house, my beautiful home office here. I started NextGem in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and moved down to Zimmerman partway through that. Becker and Sherburne County paid for my second run through ILT with my previous idea, and I'm so grateful for that. I plan to definitely test run more ideas in the future, when the time comes, and definitely be a part of ILT moving forward and continue to help other entrepreneurs, learn and grow and just build. As of right now, I'm the sole proprietor of Love and Moon Trading Cards, but we're in a rapid growth phase, and I'm definitely seeking people to bring on to work with me. I've done over $500,000 in gross sales already this year, since starting in January. And like I said, we're rapidly scaling and looking forward to growing and making this a long-term thing. And I will say, not only do I appreciate my time in ILT, but I highly recommend it to every growing entrepreneur that I meet. When I go to different meetups and stuff like that, it's my number one recommendation for people. It's just amazing. It's an amazing resource to have. I hope it continues to be around for a long time so that I can test run more and more ideas as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'll thank Dave later again for his great testimonial. And Brian and to everyone in the room, again, apologize that I can't be there today in person, but I just wanted to share just kind of the final stats. So where did we land in the first 6 cohorts? So we've run 6 cohorts in the city of Becker and Sherburne County. We were able to identify 237 individuals that were interested in this entrepreneur training. 55 of them completed our very robust application process. This is not a quick form. I don't know, Josie and Kevin, how long it took you to fill it out, but we put a lot of speed bumps in the way to get through that application form. We have a video interview process. We make sure that these are individuals that really want to take their idea and turn it into a business, or take their existing business and really push forward on it. Of the 55 that applied, 39 were accepted. And of the 39 that were accepted, 19 completed our program. Our attrition rate is very, very low when it comes to entrepreneurs. But the takeaway, when you go 237 down to 19, there's a lot of people out there with ideas, but not everybody's willing to do the things you need to get your business moving forward. And the biggest thesis that I have with this business is, let's stop wasting resources on people that are just thinking about doing stuff. Let's get it in the hands of entrepreneurs that actually want to move it forward. And that's why I asked Josie, Kevin, and Dave to come and speak to you guys as people in the community. These are the doers. These are the people that need resources and access to education services like ILT to get plugged into this business community. There's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of great leaders in the community, but we need to gather them around these entrepreneurs. And so Josie, Kevin, and Dave, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today. And Brian, thank you for inviting us in to give a small sneak peek. We're very early in your county, so we will be gathering more entrepreneurs and and what they've been able to accomplish in a very short time. But as you can see, Dave, who came through a much earlier cohort when he was up in Grand Rapids, he's already exited his first business. It didn't go the way he wanted, but he started a second one, and he's doing it in Sherburne County. And he's already generated $500,000. So he's poised for growth, and that's all because people believed in him and his ability to be an entrepreneur. So I want to thank you guys again for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Yep. And I think too, the numbers, you said 19, does that include the people that are currently in the current cohort as well?
No, nope. We'll have those stats once we finish the current cohort, which is going right now, and we would love to have those of you that are sitting here come to the founder showcase so you can experience what that is like for the founders and meet more ILT people that are in your county.
Do you want to say anything?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate Nick and the presentation. I think this has been a long process for us. This wouldn't be possible without the Just Transition Fund and Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors who backed the funding for this. So we received $150,000 to use for the cohorts. We also received some for technical assistance on a business incubator side. I think what you're seeing is, it's kind of cool to hear, with some individual I didn't know about Becker or some of these other areas, but I want to be here now. And I think the biggest thing is if you feed them, they'll stay. That's really the hope and goal behind doing some of this, especially in light of some of the Sherco transition that we've been going through for a number of years, a lot of the business transition. So I appreciate Nick's time. I appreciate the county's time in partnering on this. And I think it's kind of cool to hear some of the success stories that are coming out of this. So I appreciate all the support that's been done. And from the city side, our EDA and our council as well were supportive of this.
I've got a question. Nick, Andrew Hall.
Yeah.
I'm one of the county commissioners. I also am an entrepreneur. Do you keep, from a marketing standpoint on helping to market this program within the county, do you keep statistics on the success rate of the businesses that have completed your program, say, versus the general population of startups? I would think it would be higher solely based on the screening that you do. But I think that would help to sell this program a bit within the county if we can say, if you attend this and you're accepted and you're successful. Granted, part of it's self-selection, but it helps promote the program if they understand they've got a better chance of success if they get through the program versus not.
Yeah, that's great. We're working on gathering that from our alumni base, and looking back retrospectively. We start so early in the process, and so we're working on gathering that. Some of the entrepreneurs that have come through, they'll get to the 7th, 8th week, and they'll realize that they're not ready to start. So we really try to focus on getting that reporting information, and we're looking for data in terms of those that didn't go through a program like this, so that we can do some of those success metrics. I don't have anything offhand, but it's the number one request we're getting from all of our community partners, and so we're working on getting that information back.
Perfect. Thank
from
you.
the entrepreneurs. Yeah. I'd love to report back, or at least get that information to Jacob and Brian so they can share it with you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And maybe piggybacking on that, I know one thing I'll do, and probably Jacob will do too, is keep track of those that didn't make it through our county and kind of a longitudinal study and see where they after a year, where they after 2 years. Because to Nick's point, they're catching them very early, and I think we won't see the full impact of this for another year or two. So
Yeah.
we'll keep track of that.
Well, I agree, and I think the other thing that's important is funding. I mean, when I was starting my business, nobody wanted to give me money. After it was successful, everybody wanted to give me money, but I didn't need it, right?
That's how it always works.
Yep.
When you don't need it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You know, and I'd add this, one of our early entrepreneurs, I'll pick on two real quick, but, they came through our very first cohort 4 years ago. Um, Ramsey Schaefer started a tech company. He was down in Northfield. Um, it took him 3.5 years to get to a spot where people could really understand and see his idea. He came through ILT 3 times. After the third time, he was really able to validate his market. He quickly raised $500,000. He's now exiting that business. He's raised another 750 for his second business. One of our other entrepreneurs, kind of a shining star up in St. Cloud, a non-venture backable business, but an investable business called Impacts. They, when they came to ILT, they were generating about $34,000 a year, and they were doing it as kind of their side hustle. This year, it's almost 3 years later, they're going to generate $2.5 million in revenue. They've hired 5 people. They bought a 10,000 square foot warehouse that they, after a little bit, realized that they could just hire a 3PL, so they didn't have to own and manage a warehouse. But the thing I want to highlight is that, when we catch these entrepreneurs this early, they become major advocates in their community, and more importantly, they don't have a reason to join the business community because they're so early. And what they really need is individuals like yourself to get connected with, because you guys have business connections. You guys are the business community. And the faster we get them plugged in, the more likely they're going to stay because they feel like they're part of this community, and this community cares. So it's really important to me. And the reason why we are trying not to charge entrepreneurs for this program and making it available to them is because if the community doesn't invest, then they won't care. And it's not, this is not a nonprofit, just to be, I don't know if you guys know that. We're not a nonprofit, but it's really important to me, get the business community and community leaders to care about the emerging new businesses that are trying to grow in your community. And the only way that happens is if people make investments of time, money, network, and connections. And so I want to say thank you to, Jacob. We've been working together for a number of years now. And even before we got the JTF grant, and Brian, it's been great meeting you as well. But there's lots of good stuff happening in the community. We've got a lot of forward momentum building, and it's important to let the entrepreneurs know that there's a lot of resources, and they don't just need, they do need money, but they don't just need money. They need connections and commitment from the community. So I want to say thank you for this first commitment you made and the trust that you've given us to help cultivate this within your community.
All right.
I have one question. So what are the next steps, being as we're winding this down? Is how do we maybe keep something like this going?
That's an excellent question, and might lead into part of the
Number 6 on the agenda.
Yeah.
The budget?
So we can. The nice part about the number 6 on the agenda is we have room to keep changing what we're asking for. Just Transition Fund just announced another round of funding opportunities in a slightly different capacity, but we'll be able to talk on that piece.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Very good presentation. Very good program.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, on to the homeowner rehabilitation loan program update from.
Sounds good. And I have a copy here. So just a few days back, we got this back from the county attorney's office. And this is, again, the draft application for what the low interest homeowner rehabilitation program we could run through the Housing Trust Fund that would be attached to a special assessment. Really, the attorney's office didn't have too many things to add. There's some legal language that they added on the second page as far as the agreement goes. But really, they were supportive of the program in general. So really today, it's just kind of an update to say that the application has made it through the attorney's office. And at this point, if we still want to keep moving forward with developing this program, when we look at our July board meeting, we can have a draft ordinance written to start talking about what that would look like, as well as getting some informational flyers to what we'd actually be pitching to the homeowners to have them understand what the program is. Two other quick notes about the changes to the application. HUD has updated the both the state median income as well as our local area median income goes. So on that number one, that income has been raised to $134,000. That's reflective of the state median income. That's 115% of the state AMI. The reason why we're sticking with the state median income is because if we get those matching funds from Minnesota Housing, their program defines it as 115% of state AMI. If we don't get those matching funds from Minnesota Housing, then we can actually raise this further because our area median income is higher than the state's. So that's something we'll keep track of. And then the other thing based on our conversations last time, we removed the verbiage for credit score. So we know that we still want them to apply for the fix-up funds, but basically if they get denied for the fix-up funds, we want them to apply to this and explain they do have to provide that denial letter for the fix-up funds and explaining why that is. And us as a board can decide if that's something, if we want to take them on. So we just removed the verbiage of what your credit score is. That way we're not too fixated on that.
So that's no longer on this application?
Correct, which that number 2 needs to be scratched off there.
So the plan is not to look at their credit score at all?
The plan is, so the good part is, through the minute, they still have to apply for the fix-up fund, and part of that application, they do check their credit score.
Okay.
But that being said, I think kind of our conversations before is because we will be doing this as a special assessment, our risk as far as looking at credit score is different than if this was just a low-interest loan.
Okay, any other questions for Brian? So what do you need from us then? Regarding this,
I think at this point, just kind of the go-ahead to look at what a draft ordinance would be, as long as there's no opposition to keep moving forward down this path.
We do have the ordinance, we would just have to add a little language and then go to the board for a public hearing. So if we had general consensus that this is okay, we could actually start scheduling the public hearing and have this up and running in July as opposed to waiting for more approvals.
I think one thing we should probably do at the board meeting, so it's part of the public record, is just not identify the program, but as we talked about a number of times, and I know it's morphed a little bit, but we also need to, I think, emphasize to the board on how this helps the housing goals, you know. And we said that this wasn't as direct as our original concept, but make sure we address that.
has anybody figured that out yet?
I think the argument we made was it really helps on what currently exists. So making sure that that is staying as good as possible, so that when people do sell, it does help our buyer side, as well as just maintaining our existing housing stock. And with the eye of continuing to look toward new construction, but just at least maintains. We know that the roofing situation is getting more and more stressful for homeowners as far as insurance goes. And so, you know, that's just one area that our current homeowners are feeling more strained on the housing market. And I think that our housing study supports that.
Well, I do think that there are ways to market this, even if this is not as specifically targeted as, you know, fixing up a home so it can sell, right? As the original concept was. But I think it can still be marketed that way. And if we target the marketing that way, that will help with accomplishing that goal, because this does, even though it's not specifically targeted to make sure that the houses are eligible for VA and FHA loans, it does help with some of those things, specifically like the roofing and some of those issues. So I would make sure that the marketing kind of has that bent, and then that will help move the needle.
And that would speak nicely to the housing study in that our homeowners that are of 55 plus that may be on a fixed income and have a high debt to income, as we talked about before, they're limited in their options to afford the fix-ups that they might need to do the house to make the house competitive to sell.
You want to add anything in?
So, do you need a motion to move this or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh, we need a motion.
Yeah, it would be, because you're basically approving this, giving us authorization to bring it to the board.
All right, so, all right, we have a motion,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
All right. So on to number 6.
Yeah, so number 6 speaks to Commissioner Danielski's question there. So I can pass that out as well. So we had the opportunity, so the Just Transition Fund created a new program called the Local Economy Lab. And this is a grant program that is new for them that goes up to $500,000 of funding for communities that are in coal transition. So it was interesting because when this first came out, our county actually wasn't included as eligible. And so I spent probably a week or two going back and forth with Just Transition, kind of arguing our spot back into being eligible. And they said, oh, yep, basically it's kind of our mistake, you should have been included, so now you are eligible. So that limited our timeline for actually submitting to this grant. So this grant is up to $500,000, and there's a part 1 and a part 2. So the part 1 is really this letter here. They were very strict that it had to be only 1 page and a high-level overview of what we would be asking for. So they were very clear in their informational sessions that this is not, they're not going to take this as set in stone. You can change it, you can modify it a lot, but they want a general working idea of what you would be pitching for. The really big deal about this grant opportunity too is it's not a one-to-one match and it's not a reimbursable grant. It's a grant that they will, in these different sections, give you the money up front to do the different things that you are saying you will do. And we did clarify, so you'll see we're asking for $450,000 spread out into a few different areas of what we do as an EDA. And 2 of those are just increasing our funds, both for the Housing Trust Fund and for the Revolving Loan Fund. And they clarified that even just us moving that money into those funds is considered used. So as long as that money shifts into the funds, we can use that over time, so we don't have the same deadlines. But on the entrepreneurship side, so we could go 2 different directions with it, or as many as we want, but on the entrepreneurship side, we did speak with the new director of the SBDC out of St. Cloud. Mike Heen is their new director there. And Mike was mentioning that the SBDC is developing an Entrepreneurship 101 program, which is an in-person kind of 4-week program for entrepreneurship. And they'll be doing that first in St. Cloud, kind of modeling how that looks. And then they want to bring it to their other areas that they serve. That's what we listed as potentially funding on the entrepreneurship side. I don't know, Jake, the ILT Academy has been an interesting organization to collaborate with and work with. It is difficult to really assess the overall success of ILT Academy through the Just Transition Fund because it is so early stage. And so I think when looking at pitching for funds for a second round of Just Transition Fund, we left ILT Academy out in the sense that we were thinking there might be a good idea to explore other entrepreneurship type of trainings throughout the region. But we're very open to talking through that and seeing maybe we should move that entrepreneurship side back to ILT Academy and keep continuing that on.
My concern with when you're referring to an agency that is somewhat focused on St. Cloud, we would be maybe not there. I like the idea that we would partner with somebody that would have that focus on us.
Is there a performance issue that you're concerned about with ILT Academy?
I'd say an overall yes. So we had, he mentioned 19 participants through the program, and there's about 6 or 7 through it now. And there are a few shining examples of people that really take off through the program, Josie being one of them, Kevin to a lesser degree.
Drop the clutch, Brian.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out the value we're getting out of the investment with ILT Academy, because part of the Just Transition Fund, it was a $150,000 contract, and out of that, we're trying to identify what we really got out of that through that engagement with them. And it's a tricky answer because some of that we won't see for a year or two, but I don't know.
You want my
Yes, please.
take on it? So I think ILT, the interest that we got from a lot of these was really key to entrepreneurship, like seeing the value from the community that we really value our small businesses and entrepreneurs. I mean, that was I think successful. If you get one to stay, that's a good success on at least having people recognize that you're very supportive, like that one guy said, like, I never thought about Becker before, or some of the other communities that could apply to any of them. I think the only issue is, on the cohort levels is, what are the success metrics over time? How is that growing? It's really hard to tell at this point whether it will be successful over time, whether they will stay in the community or not. But I think the biggest thing is, if you're going to support the efforts, how do you do it at a level that says we're supporting entrepreneurship, but not necessarily through one organization, right? Whether the performance could have been better in some things, and I think it probably could have. The 0 to 1 event was a little bit challenging, I think, for some people. That was a 3-day event over 3 weekends. A lot of it was very similar to the cohorts, but it was, I think, 20 grand. I want to say somewhere around there, 15 to 20. And so some of the cost versus the benefit, I think we struggled with recognizing the cost and
Both
benefit.
of you is there's possibly better value out there, and you want to explore it.
I'd like to explore what other options are out there, and maybe there's an answer where, yes, ILT Academy, but only for the actual cohorts. It seems like whenever we had the in-person events, those really didn't have any sort of success metrics that we saw out of them, and they cost a lot of money. So we do any value we're getting are out of these cohorts, and for the beginning cohort, the 100 level, it's $3,000 per participant to go through the 10 weeks. And then they also offer an advanced cohort, which is $6,000 for the participant to go through 10 weeks. So there's an option there that maybe we fund 20 spots through this on the cohort side, but we would like to explore other entrepreneurship options in general too.
Yeah, I think and this is just our experience with the grant funding, it was really narrowly focused on ILT. We couldn't really use it for anything else. It was earmarked in the contract, and so now $150,000 goes all the way to ILT only. So I think if you're going to do something, to your point, Brian, it's a mix of things. Could you use them? Yes, for the cohorts, but can you also tap into other entrepreneurship training things that could also give some more value?
And I just want to make sure that we don't get into something like the greater MSP that we spent $10,500 a year on and really got nothing back on, because it wasn't focused on us.
I don't know that IoT is based on the same platform, are they? He,
For ILT
yeah,
Academy?
isn't he kind of, has he moved down?
Yes and no. They do have the physical footprint of being in St. Cloud. They've done a partnership with Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation where they do Startup Connects. So those are in-person events in St. Cloud. So I know that even though these cohorts were Sherburne County based, there was a draw and toward St. Cloud even through ILT Academy. So there's still that too. But and then on the small business development side, the SBDC, if we did any sort of entrepreneurship classes through the SBDC, they would be in Sherburne County classes, not in St. Cloud. And just a little bit more background on the actual application. So this step 1 application was due last Friday. So we did submit this last Friday. This is just that interest form. And then if we are selected to go ahead and submit our full application, that full application, they're a little bit loose on their timelines, but they're saying most likely by the end of this month, they will let people know if they've been selected to submit their full application. And then they expect the full application to be due by about mid-June to end of June. And so without us having a June board meeting, we would be seeking approval to submit an application, a step 2 of the full application if selected, to meet that June timeframe. And we can always find ways to discuss this further, but that would be something we would need approval for in this board meeting, just because we don't have our June.
So you'd be looking for approval to submit for the second application?
Yes, the full application.
Full application. Okay.
Was there any conversation about how we're gonna be moving forward? And this is in regards to creating our regional EDA? Does that have any dollar component?
No, it doesn't. Right now, there's a lot of transition at the federal level, so we're kind of on hold till we get more feedback from them. We actually had a meeting on Friday to discuss it, and it's kind of on pause until staff from the EDA get more direction, federal EDA.
But on that note, the number 1 is to fund a 7W regional approach toward business retention and expansion. So paying out for everyone in our region to use the same executive pulse software that we do so that we can actually start sharing data better. So
Kind of start.
exactly. So even without the official title, we'll still have that collaborative spirit. And that's actually what leads this off, is showing, we're looking at this as a regional thing, that Sherco decommissioning is not just Becker, it's not just Big Lake, but it's our county and it's our surrounding county. So how can we band together on that?
So when we get the $200,000 for the revolving loan fund, will that money just come in, and then do we have to continue using it after we get paid back? So once it goes out to that customer that's gonna take that loan, does it have to come back to the revolving loan fund, or how does that work?
It does.
It does?
Yeah.
So it'll always just stay
It always
right in
comes
there?
back. We earn interest on it once we allocate it to a business, so it keeps growing. We've been
Okay,
very successful.
but this is additional money to what we...
Additional funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I think we have 7 current loans. We've had 11 or 12 go through the program, so
okay.
this just helps grow it a little bit.
All right, well, I'd entertain that motion in advance, in consideration of the non-June meeting, of giving Brian authority to submit for the second application. Not sure if that wording is technically correct, but
Sounds good.
is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Sounds good, I like
Wait a
it.
second.
All right, all in favor?
Wait, one question before we go to vote.
Yeah,
Number
sure.
6 on the, sorry. Number 6 on the technical assistance, there's no dollar amount behind that?
Yes.
Is there a reason?
So the way that they phrased it was their technical assistance is just an add-on that they will give any once selected. So we do want to indicate, yes, we'd love to keep working with you guys on the technical assistance side, but they are saying that that's just an additional thing that they will provide anyone who wins.
Got it.
Sounds like-
Thank you for that clarification.
Sounds like what happened with Becker, where we had original 150, they said we'll supply technical assistance, we didn't know the dollar amount until
probably, what, 16 months.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Go.
Dan, are you formulating a thought? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now that that's done, quick question, if this grant is denied, is there any other funding for the entrepreneurial programs, or are we just dead?
At this point, there's nothing in the pipeline that I have seen. We're keeping an eye out, but I haven't seen anything come through that would be, that we could pitch for.
They do focus on coal transition communities, so we'll score very high in that category.
Very good. Brings us to the budget presentation from Dan.
Chris, you want to bring it up? Every year we go through the budget, and a lot of it is similar to prior years, but I do have some discussion points in there that I'd like the group to review. So these are our different categories of expenses, and I'll quickly go through each one, but I do have, like I said, some questions on some of the slides. So we have a lot of regional development organizations that we partner with. Rayanne has already mentioned Greater MSP, Greater St. Cloud Development Corp, obviously out of St. Cloud. Greta is on their board now. She just was appointed a month or two ago. CMRP is our river crossing partnership with Wright County and several local communities. That is gaining traction. We transitioned to a nonprofit. We're starting to get membership fees from non-governmental entities. So we really have a lot of momentum there. We had a $1 million grant from the state on a Pell study, and we anticipate applying for a Tier 2 study and getting some funding for that. So that $25,000, we've received substantial benefits from being part of that group. And then some of our statewide organizations and chambers equals about $4,500 a year. Greater MSP, they're based out of Minneapolis. We do get some benefit from them. I just don't think the $10,500 is, I don't think we have the ROI on that to continue. So I would recommend as staff that we do not renew that membership. We obviously have some challenges with the state budget right now as they pass on some costs. Greater MSP is more of a nicety than a necessity, I think, so I guess I would recommend that we no longer renew that membership. We're not looking for a motion, this is just general discussion, and we can wrap it up at the end, but that's one of the questions I want to discuss. Professional services, we do have the Rural Ideas Network, we do have metrics on that, on how successful that is, and we bring that, I think they were here last month or 2 months ago. And then consultant studies. This is a pretty open amount. We don't have things attached to it, but it allows us to do certain projects. And you can see some of the studies we've done in the past with that funding. If we do not use it, it does roll over to a dedicated economic development fund, which is what would pay for the ordinance rewrite if that is approved. It's some of that dedicated funds that have been rolled over. Expenses for missed projects, Initiative Foundation, we contribute $6,700 a year. That is one of our best investments. We've received over hundreds of thousands of dollars of grants over the last decade and very successful. They're often gateway applications. We got a $2,000 grant that led to a $1 million grant from the state of Minnesota. So very successful. Conference and trainings, Brian's obviously very involved in the community, and we do want him to continue his education, so we have that on there. A lot of promotional expenses, you'll see him at chamber events, golf tournaments, marketing materials, that's $1,000. Travel, we do have to have workers' comp insurance for the group, and that totals about $19,000. The development project fund that I mentioned has a balance of about $307,000, and there I mentioned we plan to utilize about $75,000 for the rewrite. I did apply for Initiative Foundation grant that'll help offset that. And then you'll see we have the $50,000 on here that'll help offset some of those costs too. So a maximum of $75K costs, but we expect that to be a little lower than that with those grants. A lot of conferences and trainings are now done online. So I guess I would recommend we cut that conference and training budget to about $4,500. I think that would still allow us to reach our goals on continuing Brian's training, continuing the networking, but we could reduce that line item a little bit. Total budget, you'll see we've reduced our expenses over the last 5 years. A lot of that was the Rural Ideas Network, who happened to be $25,000. They've reduced that to $6,000 as their business has grown. So we've seen a lot of savings there, and then incrementally, we reduce some expenses each year, which allows us to keep our budget pretty flat as personnel costs go up a little bit. Reducing these fees has allowed us to keep our budget pretty flat. Abatements, we have 12 active abatements that range from $2,900 a year all the way up to $96,000. So you see last year we were scheduled for $235,000 of abatements. We did have a business that did not meet their goals. So that $96,000 has been reduced, and then a couple of the other ones went up in value. We've had some new ones in 2025. There is a risk there that once they meet their goals, we've taken it out of the budget, but I don't think we should keep budgeting for it, considering they're they have a ways to go to meet their goals. So there is a risk there, but I think it's fiscal management to kind of keep it down a little bit. And then I expect 2026 to be flat because we haven't had any new abatements over the last year. And you can see the expiring abatements over the next 5 years. Back in a couple years when Sherco's going offline, we do have the benefit of a couple large abatements are coming off too. So hopefully that'll help kind of spread out the loss of the second unit at Sherco. And so we're dropping over 121,000 over the next 5 years. We do not charge for abatement applications. It is a lot of work for staff to prepare those, to make sure that they're ready to present to the board. We do charge $1,500 for our revolving loan fund. I would throw out the option of charging $1,500 for our tax abatement fee. That is still relatively low compared to some of our cities. I don't know if Becker charges a fee, and I know Elk River charges a larger fee than the $1,500. So another discussion point there. Personnel costs, we expect a 3% wage adjustment. Health insurance, we don't know what that'll be. Our cap is 13.5%. It does sound like we will not have to go up to our cap. That's something we just learned over the last week. So that's good news. And then the new Paid Family Medical Leave Act that a lot of employers, or all employers as of right now, will have to pay starting next year. So that's a $250,000 hit countywide. Housing trust funds, we have a current balance of $305,000. As Brian mentioned, we did apply for a state fund. Now we have the just transition fund that he just mentioned. And then we are slated to get $34,000 in additional state funds. So on January 2026, we could have a balance of $630,000. That's dependent on those grant applications. We are eligible to charge 10% of staff time to that fund. I think that's a little excessive, but we could add an administration fee. I was recommending 3% of the total loan amount. That would help offset some of the staff costs. It wouldn't be a huge burden to the applicant. So just throwing that out there is another way to offset the budget. And so with those changes that I'm recommending, we would be able to keep the budget flat in 2026 and still get the same bang for our buck. So then I leave it up for discussion on those points that I mentioned.
Well, can we just rewind it then and go one by one to make sure we didn't miss anything? So the first one was dropping the greater MSP affiliation. We obviously all know Rand's thoughts. Does anybody else have, I mean, I have to trust staff on this, as far as what the value here is and if it's marginal.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the events I've been to. So in January, they had their next 2025 conference, which was their big yearly event. And they touched on 5 different areas that they're driving forward and focusing on. Most of the 5 areas Sherburne County has nothing to do with. Silicone chip manufacturing, biomedical manufacturing, green aviation, fuel manufacturing. So we weren't really represented necessarily at that conference. We did just have an event last week, and I spoke with Amanda Taylor of Greater MSP. She did make the argument that on the green aviation fuel side, they see a play where because of our rail line going through Sherburne County, that could be a really good industrial push to grow this green aviation fuel. And so she kind of really had all these grand ideas. Apart from that conversation with her, though, I have had very little interaction with Greater MSP. I think they did one report for us, a yearly report, that mirrors a lot of the data we already had. And that's the extent of my interactions with them thus far.
A general question about this, so any cuts we make in our EDA budget, so we cut 10,000 here, that doesn't stay in the EDA budget, that goes back to the county.
We would remove it from the levy, so it's just not, the taxpayers would not be paying $10,500.
Well, we are up against some challenges countywide, and I think we all have to, be cognizant of that, and even as a board, I mean, typically we'd be fighting for our budget with everything we have, but looking at the bigger picture, if it's not needed, we're gonna have to look at that. I would be in favor of dropping the membership.
Is there an opportunity to just reduce both regions, but keep both? From like the RFI response standpoint, Greater MSP has been helpful in responding to those versus GSDC.
Often there's duplication with the deed too, because they typically send those
Deed'll
out.
send it, they haven't been helpful in responding.
I just want to, so let me just put a context on budgets right now.
Yeah.
The state shift is $300 to $400 million to the counties. That alone is about a 7% levy increase that we're not willing to. There's a diversity of opinion on the board that some of us on the board are not even willing to consider. So we will be looking at significant cuts in services, and we will probably be looking at which mandated services we are not going to meet the state requirements for. So in that context, anything that is a nice to have or marginally nice to have is going to get cut.
Yep, I was thinking from a dollar amount, so if we're looking at a 10-5 cut in this category, could it be reduced between the two, that same amount, versus eliminating one of the resources? But I guess I personally use
That's an
recently.
option. Another option is the cities could be involved in Greater MSP. I don't know that the cities pay anything right now because it's covered under the county.
But I don't think we would have the budget.
So we could have further discussions on that. Maybe we could reduce it to 2,500. And so I'd be happy to have that conversation with Greater MSP, but like I said, I just don't think we're getting $10,000 of value from it.
And my question, Maria, is where do you think the value would be? Because I haven't seen any value in 6 years.
From the RFI response specifically, that's the one category that I think they've.
So somebody wants to move to Minnesota, they
Right.
looking for this, they send it to us.
And it's some is in Minnesota looking to expand too, that they'll look at the whole state. So having some of those, so deed has sometimes, depending on the business, sometimes Greater MSP gets it first, sometimes deed gets it first. They try to partner. Deed is helpful in sending it out, but not so much on actually filling it out, compiling it, getting it back to wherever it needs to go. MSP has more of the research that's been helpful.
Staff having discretion
To split it.
to split it as they see fit based on the best results.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Red cup, blue cup. What's that?
I almost forgot to vote on my own motion.
You're again. All right. Good with that one, Dan? Let's see, there was nothing, where are we to?
The conferences and training.
Conferences and training down to 4,500. There again, you've done the math, you know what we're spending, you know what's anticipating. I don't know if I have anything to add to that, so, I mean, these are important parts of what we do.
Yeah, so I don't want to eliminate
We
it,
don't
but
wanna eliminate it.
we could be more selective of what we do.
Correct. So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't see really anything in here for advertising to get power.
That'd be the $1,000 for promotional.
Right. But $1,000 and we have a $600,000 budget and we're only, I mean, if you're running it like a business, I think $1,000 trying to get our information out to the people that are gonna use it, I think is very difficult.
And we can use, we have that professional services, which is pretty open. So we could use some of that as well, or we have that project fund balance if there's something that really knocks our socks off, we can pull it from there. So I think we're good that we have other sources of revenue for that.
Right.
Well, and I think that's a great point, because I've been discussing with Brian that part of our problem is we're not, I mean, at one meeting, we're trying to discuss how to advertise our advertising, that's how far back we are, that we're not getting our information out, so, yeah.
Brian will be a media star. He's gonna have an article about him and what we're trying to do in both newspapers, so.
And to that point, we're really trying to leverage more of the free and pretty cheap ways of getting out there. So pushing more into the newspapers, pushing more into the radio stations, that'll be one of my bullet points. So really trying to use the media structure that's already there to get the word out better, because we're gonna need to get the word out better for some of these programs. And so that's the main way we're projecting to do that.
One of my questions too is, can we use that business lab that we're in right now ourselves to say, how can we promote ourselves better?
We could. I think we get a few free, so.
Right.
And we do meet with each bank, because those are the people that really push that for us. When people try to start new businesses, they need capital, go to this site and they can help you walk through some of those challenges, but we certainly can market it harder.
So you're comfortable that we'll be able to market our programs? There again, whether it comes out of the promotional fund or, like I said, Red Cup, Blue Cup, I don't care as long as we can move funds. Okay. Did we have a motion on this yet? No. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the reduction of conference and training down to $4,500.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second. All in favor? All right.
Tax abatement application fee.
A resounding yes. Absolutely.
So moved.
Charge as much as we can.
Does the $1,500 fee correlate, just because I see like the first one, for 2026 is 3,000, is that, could you do like a, maybe not just a one-time application, but maybe a sliding one where maybe it's, if it's less than so much of a tax?
We can do a percentage of the
I mean, it's the same
abatement
amount of
awarded.
work, no matter if they apply for 3 or 100,000, is it?
Yeah, it is
Okay,
the same
so-
amount of work.
So I guess that would not be relevant then, if it's the same amount of work.
We do an impact study of every application. That takes a little time putting that out, and we score it to make sure it qualifies, so.
Do we know what Elk River charges by chance? Perfect.
What is Becker, what do you,
I was gonna just look it up. I think ours is set up as there's a certain fee, but then there's an escrow associated with it. So if there's any consulting costs, that gets charged to escrow, and then there's a portion released back to them if it's not spent.
And typically, we work with the cities, so they do a lot of the legwork too. So it's not all on the county on most of these applications. If it's in a township, we take 100% ownership of it, but a lot of the meetings are scheduled through the city, and then so I think 1,500 is adequate for our workload.
you feel we're not being too conservative on that?
These are businesses that are trying to expand, so I try to hold the barriers that we put against them, so I think 1,500, like I said, is adequate.
And ours, tax abatement, cities is $500 app with a $10,000 escrow.
Yeah, so they, is there something maybe we'd want to add an escrow on possibly, just in case?
I think those are two, I think you spend more staff time managing
Trying to
that.
manage the escrow.
I mean,
Or explain it?
justify.
I mean, I like the 15, we can always adjust the 1,500 later. I like the idea of, if anything that's free has no value, right? And so if it's $1,500, that puts value on the fact that we're putting the work into it. So I like that. You're right. Yeah, there's a $3,000. Was a $3,000 tax abatement worth the work? I don't know.
That's annually, so over 12 years, that would.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a smaller business, obviously.
Yeah, so it's $3,000 over 12 years, so there's still value to having a $1,500 fee. you know, in that, so that's fine.
And with the tax abatement requests that I've been involved with, I can't recall one that, $1,500 moved their balance sheet at all. So these were already well-funded companies that were coming in, so. I mean, it would be great, you can't do it, it would be great if we had an option to, you know, if we actually did have that company come in that was a startup and this was actually being used as what I would feel would be appropriate to waive that fee. But that opens up a can of worms that I don't think we want to do. So whatever amount you guys feel is legitimate, I'll go with.
I'll make a motion for the $1,500 charge for a tax abatement application fee.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Danielowski.
I'll second it.
Andy? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And that would be part of the county fee schedule that will be brought in October. And one more. We want to charge an administration fee once this housing trust fund is up and running, so that we do take care of staff time.
Yeah.
And I would recommend 3% of the loan amount, which shouldn't be too burdensome.
I'll make a motion that.
One time, not on an annual basis, a one time.
So this applies to the program that we're kicking off also?
Yes.
So we're giving people money and then taking, what? What are we doing here?
Well, there's an administrative cost to the county to run this program.
Yeah,
And it's staff time. We're not outsourcing this at all. It's quite a bit
but
of
it's
staff
our
time.
money that we're giving, you know? So are we, I'm sorry, maybe I'm just having a moment here. I mean, I get it. I mean, you're charging a loan origination fee, but we're trying to give them money.
Same with the tax abatement. We're trying to give them money that
That's a
comes
little
back.
bit
Yeah, it's just an allowable use. There is a cost to the county to operate this program.
Okay.
And this isn't a recommendation, you'll notice it's just a discussion item, so if that's.
Well,
not
but I mean,
appropriate-
what this is, so if they apply for, let's make the math easy, right? So if they apply for $100,000, there's a $3,000 origination fee, so they actually get $97,000. And that money comes out of the trust fund money, and then that $3,000 gets applied toward the administrative costs. So it, in essence, buys down the levy by $3,000.
Okay, I see. So we're gonna transfer that money from the trust fund
Right.
into operations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry,
I was just saying, well, it went back into the trust, or we're just saving it, well, that makes no sense. But
What's
if
the-
you're moving it into another line item on the budget to pay staff, then.
I'd add revenue to the economic development budget.
What's the interest rate we're charging? 3.5.
3.5.
3.5 or 2.5?
It's here.
3.5.
So,
I think that matches our septic program.
yeah. But, so what my point is that that administrative fee, because of the interest rate, won't, and the origination fee's a one-time deal. The interest rate's paid over years.
Which
but-
stays in the housing trust fund.
But the interest rate will more than
Yeah,
cover
I get it.
the fee.
Just for clarification, is that administration fee then coming out of the proceeds, or is that a fee separate from the proceeds? So like in the question of $100,000, would they get $100,000 and then just $3,000 is taken out of the fund for the cost, right?
That's an option. That's what's
I
recommended.
think that's the only way it would
Yep.
work. The people that are gonna apply for this aren't gonna have $3,000, so I think it has to come out of proceeds.
Because I think that'll open a different can of worms where if you apply for $100,000, you only get 97, but our fees are only explained at $46 or whatever the fees are.
We should add that.
So if it's $100,000 and then outside of that, you just take the $3,000, the administrative out of the fund,
Oh, I see.
then you're not confusing the clients that they're getting charged more.
Got it.
So I would say if it's $100,000 loan, you take $100,000, borrow the 100,000 to them, then you just reduce that fund by $3,000 for cost outside of that loan.
So the trust fund pays for the administration?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, even better yet.
So moved. Oh, you already did that?
Yeah,
Second.
that's fine.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Yeah, opposed. All right. Great work.
I can squeeze it into 2 minutes here.
Yeah, I knew you could.
The big things that I want to highlight, because we talked about a majority of this, but on the back, on the marketing side, we really are trying to do more outreach to the papers, the radio stations, anyone that has an audience. So did the interview with Patriot News that should be coming out in a week or two from what she had mentioned. Kind of a short get to know you, new staff member, but gets more information about economic development out there through Patriot News. And then working with Tim Zaboy on the Work Right radio. Yes, it's Work Right, but again, that regional approach and being able to talk about what Sherburne County Economic Development does for our region. So looking to schedule that. Work Right has a short call-in section, so working to schedule that. And then a few other speaking engagements. So again, looking at those free and low-cost ways of getting that word out there. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight real quick is on the childcare side, working really closely with Anna and Mitch, our family childcare licensors, to update our interactive GIS map that we have. We already have a map of all the providers, but now through a very simple process, we're going to be able to show what the near current availability is for each provider. So if a parent can go on there and say, I need one infant spot and one school age spot, and it will filter out only the providers that have that current availability, so that parents don't have to call 151 providers anymore. They're maybe calling 10 or 20. And it's our way of hooking up the parents more efficiently with the open spots. And it's also our way of seeing what is the current availability within our family child care, and we're hoping to almost drive down current availability because we're hooking up the parents better with what's actually available now. So we should have that up and running by next week. Right now, we're getting all the feedback from the providers, but it looks like a really efficient way of doing that.
In that conversation with the providers, I know that the second draft of the licensing has dropped from the state. Have you been having conversation with providers? Where is that at? And have we been advertising how people can engage in that second draft and make comments? Do we have anything out there?
We did do one post. I'm not sure how much traction it got, but in all of this process, I am gathering emails for our family child care providers, and actually Anna has that too. So there is an event that they can go to virtually to voice their opinion. I haven't received a lot of feedback directly on the family child care side. Some feedback from the centers that have some concerns about some of the center mandates. So I know that those that had issues with it are signed up for the virtual event. But that's an area to keep getting feedback on.
I still have concerns because I think they reduced it by one page possibly.
Yeah, very little change.
And it's still got a lot of stuff in it that is, in my opinion, overly burdensome, especially to in-home daycares. So I don't want us to not stay on top of that one.
Sure.
Thank you.
That's it? Perfect. I think we have 30, no, we're over, but that's okay. Where are we at with the ordinance revision?
We sent out 6 RFPs. We got 2 proposals. Out of the 2 proposals, there were 2 consulting firms that were gonna partner. We interviewed last Monday. We did choose a firm. Right now, we are working on the contract for that. We sent it to the attorney's office on Monday of this week. So a little later than we wanted to, so we're hoping to get that back, get it to the consulting firm, and then hopefully get it to county board by June 3rd. We anticipate about 10 months. Good. But the firm just stood out. They do a lot of work in townships and counties. The lead is a treasurer at her township, so she understands townships, and they very much value stakeholders, so.
All right, very good. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I will, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed.
Yeah, and yeah.